Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but I'm back with some more exciting content, and today I'm giving you an in-depth tour and review of my 2015 Volkswagen Polo GTI. Before we dive into the specifics of my car, let's take a quick look at the origins of the GTI badge. Volkswagen first introduced the GTI in 1976 with the Golf GTI, creating an icon in the world of hot hatches. Over the decades, it's become synonymous with sporty performance in a practical everyday package. But it wasn't until 1998 that the Polo GTI made its debut, offering the same hot hatch ethos in a smaller and more compact form. Fast forward to 2010 and Volkswagen launched the 5th generation Polo GTI with a 1.4 litre TSI engine. The engine was unique as it used both a turbocharger and a supercharger, giving it impressive power and efficiency for its size. However, this setup was notoriously complex and had its fair share of reliability concerns, which led Volkswagen to go in a different direction. In 2015, the Polo GTI received a significant refresh, and this is where things got really interesting. Out went the 1.4 litre twin-charged engine, and in came the 1.8 litre TSI engine, producing 189 brake horsepower. This engine wasn't just more powerful, it also simplified things by relying solely on a turbocharger. Fun fact, the 1.8 TSI is closely related to the engine that was used in the Golf GTI, giving the Polo GTI a lot of the same DNA as its bigger sibling. Now on to my car specifically. This is a facelifted model from 2015 and it's imported from Japan. It features the later 1.8 litre TSI engine paired with a 7-speed DS3 transmission. Later in the video, I'll dive into the pros and cons of the automatic DSG versus the manual gearbox option, so stay tuned for that. The colour of my car is flash red, which honestly I'm in love with. It's such a vivid, striking shade that makes the car stand out and feel truly special. Combined with the GTI's sporty styling, the colour really emphasises the car's personality. It's also sitting on 17-inch diamond cut wheels, which looks stunning and they are in good condition, but unfortunately the wheels are prone to corrosion over time, which mine are no exception to. If you're wondering why diamond cut tend to bubble up, it's because the polished surface is coated with a thin layer of lacquer to protect it. However, if the lacquer gets chipped or scratched, water and dirt can seep underneath, leading to corrosion. It's a common issue with this type of wheel, and it's something to keep in mind if you're considering a car like this. So let's start off with the interior. This one is spec'd with the gorgeous tartan seats. So this is what it looks like in the front, and this is what it looks like in the back. Now you could get these kind of leather seats as well, but obviously this is what you would be looking for, as they are the cool kind of retro seats, as you would call it. So once we turn the key, we'll see the Volkswagen logo will appear and the gauges do a little bit of a dance, which is really cool. So we won't talk too much about the head unit, as this one is an aftermarket Pioneer head unit. There was 2 versions of this car. This is a Japanese car, so it would have had this kind of small little weird Volkswagen screen in here that wasn't very good. So when the car was imported, person importing it put in this head unit and installed stuff like a backup camera and hands-free for calling. If you would have gotten the UK one, I'll insert a picture of what it looks like. That one had the Volkswagen entertainment system, different one of these plastics, and a different screen with way more features, and I much prefer that screen. I actually bought it to install in this car, but those UK models actually have a little box in here, and that's like the brain for the car, and that will have your CD slots, your SD cards, and you need this in order to communicate with the radio here. So because I don't have that, I never fitted it, but that would be a difference between the ones you'd see in the UK and the ones you'd see from Japan. If you want to see an in-depth review of that particular infotainment screen, I will insert a link in the comment section. For the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on the things that apply to all the other Polos. So this particular car has the single zone automatic air conditioning. Not all of these have it. It was an optional extra. It was pretty straightforward. Basically, you have a temperature setter here to set whatever temperature you would like. You can change the fan speed if you want to. You can turn off the air conditioning. You can set it to auto, which is what I usually leave it at, and it does a really good job. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward to figure out. Okay, up here we have a couple of switches. Well, obviously this light tells you if the passenger airbag's on or off. You have your hazard switch. These switches, by the way, feel great to press. Nice click. You have your heated rear window. You have your auto start stop on and off, which on this car it's a must. You have to turn it off because it is super annoying. I used to have it in my old car and I used to not mind it as much because it was a manual, so you had to come to a stop with your foot off the clutch for the car to turn off, and it had to be neutral, and when you put your foot on the clutch to go into first gear, it would start and it will work. Doesn't really work as great on the automatics because you stop for half a second, the car switches off. Even when you're in sport mode, it's annoying because obviously that you're just turning off the engine as everything's spooling up. It's just not good for it. So that's the switch to turn it off. And then you have a traction control button. So there is actually a little bit of a secret with this one that I want to show you because I was not aware of this until I met one of the owners. So I'm not sure if it will let me do it now. It will. So if you press it once, it will turn off traction control. And if you press it again, it will turn on traction control. But if you hold it for 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll see it goes into a special sport mode. Sport mode for traction. So I didn't know that, and it changes the way the car drives quite a bit. It changes the gear shifts, make them more aggressive, and gives you a little bit of slip. So that's something to know. Now let's go through the screen in the center. I'm trying to hold it up like this. Okay, actually I'll show you first the buttons on the steering wheel. Okay, so obviously you have your volume up and down, skip songs, and a mute switch. Pretty straightforward. Now in this car the mute switch doesn't do anything, and the voice control switch is the mute switch, but again it's pretty straightforward. It's just because the radio was replaced. And then these buttons here would control your screen, and this controls what you want on the screen and the stuff to go through it. So the first one is your driving data. So you have your speed out reading, you have your oil temperature reading, which is handy on a track day to make sure that the oil temp is all up to the right temperature. You have your instant fuel consumption. You have your average fuel consumption. Now, don't mind the 9.4, by the way. I just took a very short drive, a spirited drive. So typically, if I'm driving, I'll be getting anywhere from 15 to 17 kilometers per litre. I'll insert some statistics here maybe for you. That's the current range left in the tank. Your travel time, your distance traveled since setting off, 37 kilometers, your average speed, and that's that. The next one is your vehicle status. So obviously it's oil change due, so it says that. If any other errors came up, this is where you would find them. You have a lap timer, and so here obviously if you're on a track, you can time yourself, and that's pretty much it, to be honest. There's not a lot going on in this screen. It's nice and simple, but kind of gives you all the data you would have. I would usually have the driving data with the speed out reading, and I would go and flick between the average consumption to try and get as much fuel economy as possible as I drive the car every day. You have paddle shifters here for the gear selector, so you don't actually have to go into the manual mode to do them. There is a manual mode where you can activate them, but if you're driving in drive or sport, if you pull down on the paddle, it will pull down and it will keep you in gear. And if you then drive for about 30-40 seconds and the car is noticing that you haven't been touching the paddles, it will switch back to automatic, which is handy. Okay, to put the car into manual mode, you put the gears like this, and then like this, and then you can either go up and down the gears here or using the paddles. Popping it into here puts it into either drive or sport. So when it's in drive, you'll notice it will say D here. When you're in sport, it will go S, and 1 stands for the gears. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It goes through the gears. Now S changes the car quite a bit. It changes the throttle response on the car, and it also makes pops and bangs when you're driving. And obviously keeps you in gear longer, whereas in the normal drive it will just try and keep you up the gears as much as possible. So there's quite a bit of difference. I'll talk about that more in the driving part of it. Now, talking about the interior, it's actually nothing as special as the newer Polos. They kind of look a bit cooler, but that's just because the regular Polo non-GTI just has like a bit of a cooler inside. They changed it up a bit, but in saying that, it is nice. I owned a base spec model one of these before, and it didn't have anything like chrome here or black trim or anything like that. It was very basic, so it is spruced up and it is very high quality. Like you have like a kind of soft fabric here, this kind of metal piece here. There's very like no rattling at all. You can kind of hear me moving it around. It's really, really solid, so nothing rattles. The kind of dash is made of this really soft plastic, soft touch, which is nice. There is a couple of areas of scratchy plastic like this. It's a bit scratchy. This especially is very kind of plasticky and very scratchy, but again, it's not going to be something that you will touch quite often. You do have storage underneath the seats, which is really nice. I didn't even know this car had it until a while of ownership, where you can kind of hide stuff away like cables and stuff like that. But again, these is really, really cheap plastic. It's actually quite kind of sharp, but again, like just for the basics of putting stuff into it, it's perfectly fine. You got like leather here and you've got leather here. Everything feels good. The seats are fantastic. They are super comfortable. They're quite supportive. Like they kind of they're not tight, but they do keep you in place. I will say on a racetrack you will still kind of slide about a little bit because they're not like super tight, but for everyday driving they're perfect. Great support, even though this car has quite tough suspension, like it can be quite bouncy. The seats make sure that you're comfortable just because they have very good cushioning, very good back support, very good thigh support. They're just really, really, really good seats, so that's great. Here is your light controls. This car has automatic lights. If you have an auto, it'll automatically turn on. You have your parking lights, which I like to turn on as it turns on the kind of front LEDs and makes them look like daytime running lights. This car doesn't have daytime running lights, so that's the closest thing you can get. Obviously this switches on the headlights if you need to, and if you pull out once, it will turn on your front fog lights, and if you turn on both, it will also turn on your rear fog light, and that's pretty much that. The wipers are automatic, even though it doesn't really say automatic in there anywhere. Basically, this is off, this is auto, and then if you want to go into another mode, you just pull it up. So for the most part, you just leave it like that and it will be in auto. And again, these actually feel really good, really solid. They have a nice springy action and they just feel great to turn on and off. And again, like I said, just the quality of this interior is really good. Like if you were to compare this against something like a Ford Fiesta ST, which would be a similar kind of car, the quality of the interior would be nothing like this. It's really, really good for what it is, and you can definitely spend a lot of time in here. As you can see, I have been. This car was on 70,000 kilometers last year, so I have been driving it a lot and I don't regret any second of it. It's just been fantastic. Now, let's jump into the back seats and see how much room we have. Now, the seat at the moment is set in my position how I would normally sit. I'm about 6 foot, so let's have a little look. As you can see, not a whole lot of room, but I still fit. I have not much space, but if I pull the seat a little bit forward, it's actually definitely doable. The seats are fairly comfortable. Not a huge car by any stretch of the imagination, especially if you compare it against the newer Polo. The newer Polo is just so much bigger, but that is what makes the car so fun to drive, that really low weight of just 1.1 tons. So, you know, it's definitely not a family car, but you could easily have 4 people, even 5 people in here at a stretch, and everyone will be fairly comfortable. And again, you can get a better look at the interior. And I mean, look how great it looks with that GTI steering wheel, that piano black finish, and those cloth tartan seats, which are replicated here in the back. And the other good thing is quality is also like, listen to that, not a single bit of creaking. You know, metal handles for getting out, you know, electric windows in the back. It's a high quality affair. Even this black headliner looks really good. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that the lights on all the interior are halogen, which just feels a little bit old-fashioned, but not a big thing. You can switch it out. I've never actually been bothered to do it, but just so to let you know. Another neat thing is that you can actually see the color of the car throughout the interior, especially if you look in the back. You can actually see the red from the boot, and on this car it just works. It's just a really nice touch. It really livens up the interior to see the color of the car inside, especially when you have such a fun color like red. It really matches the interior so well and ties in with all the other red accents. The boot is more than big enough. As you can see, I have some of my stuff in here that I carry with the car. It's not a huge boot, but more than big enough. You actually have more stuff underneath here. If you lift that up, you have your spare tire, but also some more room. On some of the other Polos, like my older Polo, this wasn't here and it just went down a bit more. But this makes sure you have a nice even load floor. I borrowed this kind of tie down mat from an Audi, and it fits really well and stops things flying around because this car is fairly quick, so things can go flying. But yeah, definitely, like, you can throw a good amount of stuff in there, and yeah, absolutely no problem. And the seats do fold down as well from the inside, and they do split 60-40. So on the other Polos, this kind of comes up and out. I don't know if it does the same on this. Oh, it does actually, yeah. So let me try and do this with one hand. So you kind of do it like that and like that, and then the seat folds in like that, and you get a flat load area all the way over to here, which is a nice touch. One thing I forgot to mention is the exhaust. It's running a back box delete with custom pipework done by BS Exhaust Fabrication in Roscommon, Ireland, which really brings the sound to life compared to stock. Now let's move on to the part that everyone is waiting for, the driving experience and ownership. This is going to be the hardest part of the video to film, just because there's just so much to say. This is what's going to make the review a little bit different from the likes you see on YouTube already from when these cars were reviewed in period. This is not a car that I've been giving to for a week or a month. This is a car that I've actually owned for over a year, and I've done a lot of mileage, about 45,000 kilometers since I first got it. So I know the car inside and out. There's so much I wanted to say. So I'm going to try and break it down into the different parts of the driving experience, then the car as a whole, and then what's the car like to own. And I'm driving on Irish roads here. They're a little bit rough. You're definitely going to see some camera shake, so apologies about that. But that's going to tie me very nicely into the first part of this review, which is the suspension. So this car is on sports suspension. When I was a little boy watching Top Gear, I would see Clarkson review a car and he would say the ride in this car is simply unbearable.
If you like being uncomfortable, you can push this sport button here, which firms everything up. And if you want to feel like you're falling down a rocky escarpment, you can push this one.
And I would think to myself, surely it can't be that bad. Well, let me tell you, it can be that bad from my experience with this car. So this is my first car that I've owned with sports suspension on it, and what I can tell you is it's firm. It's very firm. When you read the reviews comparing it against the likes of the Fiesta ST, which is the main rival, they do say this is the softest, easiest to live with, And all I can say is, God, I wouldn't want to drive the Fiesta every day if this is the soft one. But in saying that, on a smooth, nice bit of tarmac, it's lovely. The seats are very, very supportive and comfortable, so even on rough roads you do feel comfortable, but you will find yourself avoiding bumps and potholes, and there might be a road where the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour and you'll do 60 because you simply cannot bear to be driving any faster than that, just because the ride does get so rough. So if you live in a place where the roads are crap, filled with potholes or whatever, that's something you're going to have to bear in mind. You will definitely feel those bumps. Now, let's talk about the steering and handling. The steering and handling is amazing on this car. The steering itself is kind of light when you're going around town and around corners, but it weights up really, really nicely, and it's just really satisfying. The only way I can describe driving this car is like when you're cutting scissors, and you know when the scissors start to glide, that sensation, or if you're kind of imagining rubbing butter into Keira Knightley, if you get that reference. But it's just wonderful. The steering is a little bit vague on center, but then it's just so responsive when you actually get going, and it's just so nice to drive at low speeds, and it's so nice to drive at high speeds. So it's kind of like the best of all worlds. The gearbox. This is the 7-speed DSG automatic. There is a manual. I drove both before I made the decision to buy this car. So, what's the manual like? Very nice. The clutch is easy. The gear shift is pretty good. You can throw the car around a lot more with the manual. You can definitely have a bit more fun with it. But at the end of the day, I went for the automatic, as this is a car I drive to work every day. And when you're driving the car in bumper-to-bumper traffic, you'll know you don't want a manual. You want the automatic. But in saying that, there is actually distinct advantages of going for the automatic, I suppose, of going for the manual. The first is it actually feels quite luxurious. So when you're driving a car that's this small, this light, this tossable, with an automatic in town, it feels like a go-kart. I know that that's like the most common thing that people say. Is such a cliche. Oh, this car feels like a go-kart. But this car does feel like a little go-kart. It's tossable, it's light, alright, it weighs 1.2 tons, and with the automatic, yeah, it does feel like a little go-kart. So there's that feeling. So you can have as much fun driving. You can probably feel the bumps here. You can have as much driving 30 kilometers an hour in town than you would driving 100 and 200 kilometers an hour on the track. The other thing is the car then has two split personalities, because you have drive, and then if you pull it down again, you have sport, and it changes the throttle response of the car, and also the way the car runs. So in drive, obviously, it's going to try and get you into the 7th gear as quickly as possible, get you up the gear, save you petrol. In S, it will never go into 7th gear. It's only going to go up to the 6th gear, and it will always, like, say, like right now, we're in 6th gear. If I pull the lever down to S, I'm in 4th gear straight away. So it's going to give you on the power like a lot more, and also it changes the throttle. So this is the throttle in drive. I'm going to accelerate. It's very, very slow. You have to really put your foot down on the accelerator. And then it will kind of keep you in gear for a long time unless you take your foot off the accelerator. Now, I'm going to pop it back into sport. And now you'll notice it's immediately just pulling, absolutely trying to take out my camera mount. But yeah, it's a completely different car when you're driving with sport. So you have two different characteristics. Now, there's a sport button that you could option on these cars, and everyone will tell you it's rubbish. It just makes suspension even more firm and uncomfortable. So that's not something you have to worry about. So, last part, the engine. And the engine in this car is a masterpiece, honestly. All the reviews will tell you that, but it is just so good. It's such a raw engine. The noise it makes kind of reminds me of like a classic car, almost like a Triumph Spitfire, from when Clarkson, May, and Hammond had the kind of classic cars, the Peugeot and the other cars they were driving. I can't think of them at the top of my head, but they have that it has a spirited little noise to it. It also just it's so smooth. It has such a smooth power delivery. Oh, and it's just wonderful. Um, Similar to a Golf GTI engine, but completely different. The Golf GTI is a bit more roary, whereas this is a little bit more kind of, I wouldn't know how it's melodic. Maybe it just sounds a little bit. It sounds very different, and I just much prefer driving the 1.8. It's a wonderful engine. It's just got power in all the right ways, and the Golf GTI has more power. My friend owns a Golf GTI of this vintage, and the Golf GTI has more power on a straight line. But around the corners, it's heavier. It's more wallowy. So I would say that this is the better car if you were looking to have fun than the Golf GTI. The Golf GTI is a good car because there's a lot of creature comforts. Like, this car doesn't really have anything. It just has your basics. The Golf is like, keyless entry and all the other kind of stuff you'd want. And it's an easier car to live with every day because the suspension is not as stiff. It is still stiff, but it's just softer than this. This car feels a bit more kind of hardcore, a bit more of like a true GTI. Like, this is the car you want on a Saturday or Sunday to kind of go on a drive. Like, beautiful weather right now in Ireland, and I'm just having a blast driving right now, giving you this review. So it is brilliant. And power-wise, right, 189 horsepower doesn't sound like a lot. 0 to 60 in just over 6 seconds. Again, that's good, but doesn't sound like unbelievably impressive. But the 0 to 60 only tells a part of the story, because how often are you going 0 to 60, right? Usually you'd be like now maybe doing 50 or 80, and then you're going. And then the car is not just fast for a GTI, it's fast, okay? So I'm going to slow down. This is 100 road. I'm going to slow down to 50. So here, or 60. Here's 60. And I'm going to put my foot down. Ready? 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. That's quick. So I'm going to do that again, okay? So I'm going to try get it to 60 again, just so we know it's not a fluke. 60 now, okay? 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. This car is quick. When you're on a tight country road, you can't possibly be going quicker than this car. Its lightness, you can just throw it into a corner and put your foot down, and because it has slightly less power than GTI, there's less wheel spin. It just kind of just goes. So it is just an absolute sensation to drive on a country road. Like, it is brilliant. Instantly when I drove this car, I knew that I had to have it because it's just that nice to drive. So that's how I would summarize this car. Stiff. The suspension is stiff, squeaky during cold winter periods when the oil is not properly warmed up in the suspension. The suspension is squeaky. It's the same in the Golf GTI, and it's obviously stiff when you're going over a rough road. It is stiff and bouncy. Okay, you have beautiful steering, a great gearbox. The steering wheel itself just feels great. The seats are really, really supportive. and it's a very easy car to live with every day. So let's talk about ownership. I mean, I've owned this car for the past year and a half. I've driven it every day to work. What's it like every day? Brilliant. It's fantastic. The automatic gearbox makes it really, really easy to drive. The fuel economy is actually not too bad. I'm kind of averaging between 35 and 40 miles per gallon. Now, I do drive at 100 kilometers an hour as opposed to like 120 or 130. I kind of try to keep it easy. So that's like the ideal world figures if you're trying to take care of it. But you can get the fuel economy if you're looking for it, which is good. And what's it like in terms of repairability and that kind of thing? Have I had any major issues? Well, listen, it can be temperamental. It's had its issues, but none of them are serious issues. The car has never really left me stuck. Things that I've had to do, which you might have to do, the oil pan is made of plastic. I had to replace it. It was a pain to source. They're very expensive from Volkswagen, so we tried 2 aftermarket ones, and none of them worked on the car. So it's just something to bear in mind. Oil pan, for example, might go on you. Tires and brakes, obviously you're going to get through them, and they can be a little bit expensive. Obviously, fuel-wise, if you're driving a lot, it's a 40-litre tank, and I am managing about 600 to 650 in a single tank. So that tells you that. Insurance, obviously, it's a little bit more than you would on like a normal car. But that's about it, really. It's not been a pain to kind of, constantly braking. I've never had the check engine light on in this car. I've never had a serious problem with this car. It's just a typical Volkswagen where it needs a little bit of love, and you need to be able to buy it and also afford stuff like tires and oil pans and brakes. It's, not that kind of car where you just buy it and you expect everything just to work forever like a Toyota or something. But very reliable, very easy to drive, and that's how I'd summarize this car. It is just brilliant all-rounder, really. I drive this car so much. It was on 75,000 kilometers when I bought it at the end of 2024. We're at the end of 2025, and I'm at 117,000 kilometers. So why am I still driving it to work every day? Well, the short answer is I don't want to sell it. It started off as like I'll get it for a while, but the car is just so good to drive, and just it's so practical, and it's brilliant. So what I would say is, if you're looking for a small sports hatchback, and you may be looking for something different than a Golf, or something easier to get, cheaper to insure, whatever, than the Golf GTI, I would recommend this. You're going to have an absolute blast with this car like I have. And whether you go for the automatic, whether you go for the DSG, it is going to reward you. And if you're looking for more power, it's very easy to get more power out of this car as well. So, yeah. Thanks for watching.